It's like this. We've got 4 pillars that make up the POP system. We've got prevention, we've got intervention, we've got education, and elevation.
But see, the soul has no identity. The ego does, right? The soul has gifts, and I stumbled into my gift and got to do it, which is a real blessing. If you can find passion and bring it into your profession, it's not work anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's purpose. You want passion in your life, find purpose in what you do. Be mindful. I don't care what it is. Find purpose in it, and it becomes a calling. Roots was an artist, and nobody saw him. Like, did you hear that? Nobody saw him. All they saw was the outside. They just saw the broken branch. They didn't see the beauty inside, which is the good stuff in every single one of us. And when I find out that you've got a story, like you've been through some stuff, the world might look less at you. In my book, it's like, no, my respect goes way up when I know you've been through some stuff.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Power of Peace podcast. This is my partner, son, consigliere, rock star, Cole. Good to see everybody. So thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about the Power of Peace Project, our 501c3, and we're celebrating 15 years coming up in January, which is crazy. But started out with me hustling around, going to prisons all over the place with me and a freaking flyer card and a dream, you know what I'm saying? And so, but anyway, there's so many of you guys that have followed, encouraged us, supported us, whether it be private donors, corporate sponsors, grantors, just people that care about what we're doing. We're filling a space. Now, I've been out there doing this for a minute, and it's all about the kids that are in trouble now. And I know who's out there, and there's so many wonderful organizations. We need one another. This problem's so big. Mm-hmm. And but I think we've found our lane, which is fairly unique, and we wrap around these kids. So we all see it on the news. You got young people running in, smash and grab. You got the debate over defund the police. You've got all this stuff, and basically we've got a generation that we're concerned about, afraid of, mad at. Okay. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that, and rightly so, people are always like, man, you need to back it up. We got to get them in elementary school, got to get them in middle school. And I say, yes, I believe that. But I think that we can't give up on this, Gen Z is what we call them, but it's the teenage youngster that is getting pulled into all kind of problems. Yeah. And so, that's my heart. And so that's where
absolutely. And I think like you said, we've found our lane, but we do so many things that it's kind of hard to articulate sometimes. I mean, I struggle with it. Yeah. Like, so what does a nonprofit do? I'm like, well, what do we don't do? But I did kind of just want to dive into, it's the end of the year and kind of have just a review of 2023. And a lot of things happened with POP during this year, and I just want to kind of recap all the things that we did, just to have so people, kind of caught up to date, and then, talk about, what we've been working on for quarter 4 and kind of going into 2024. So done. In your best summary, let's talk about 2023.
Yeah. We want to give our stakeholders, our supporters, our friends, our network, an update on where we are, kind of year in review, State of the Union, but also know the money that you give, which is so important to us. We rely on our partners to be able to do what we do. I want you to know where it's going. What's your return on investment? And what are we doing so that we want you to continue partnering with us, but I also want to be top of mind when these subjects come up, whether it's youth gangs, whether it's overdose, suicide, date rape, accidental death. They're things that, God, it's hard to talk about, but there's families out there that are dealing with these things, right? Mm-hmm. And so when these things come up, it's called mind share. I want POP, the Power of Peace Project, POP, to be something that pops into your mind and that you know what to tell a person that wants to help us, wants to connect us. Because you're right. I mean, over the years, it's like if somebody said, so what does POP do? It's like, you could ask 5 different people, get 5. Well, I think they work in juvenile facilities, check. Yeah. I think they work with churches. I think that he does writes books, motivational speaking. I think they're in prisons. I think they're in schools. And it's like, yes. So we got 5 lanes. Let's do it that way. So imagine a super highway that's all going to the same place, but there's 5 individual lanes. We got programs in schools, for kids that are starting to get in trouble, especially underserved, under-resourced communities. Instead of just going programs for the great kids to help them get even greater, it's like, no, we're going to work with the ones that a lot of people are just, marginalizing and leaving behind. So we got our school programs, prevention, but then we're also partnering with the juvenile courts, and we're going to help kids that get caught up in that, help them interrupt them before they make the big mistake. And then we're going to go, if we do miss them and they go and have to sit down for a minute and go into the juvenile justice system, we got programs in the juvenile correctional facilities, which is, the groundbreaking, some of the stuff we're doing. But then we've also partnered with law enforcement, because we've got to partner. They're the ones that are out there on the front lines. And so this divide between cops and kids is growing ever wider, and they're both afraid of one another. And so we're doing wonderful programs training cops how to really understand this young generation. And then we work with churches, because we've got this freaking army of volunteers out there, potential. But let's be honest, you got different churches on every street corner, and a lot of people sitting on their hands preaching to the converted, and yet the one that they follow says, whatever you do for the least of these is what you do for me.
Yeah.
And so he didn't say just sit in church every Sunday and sing songs to me and talk about me and give money, to be able to do that. None of that. I ain't mad at anybody for doing that, but church happens outside. You know what I'm saying? Miracles are found outside the walls of the church. Yeah. So it's a true wraparound, approach to catch them before, during, and after trouble, and then have something for them when they go back to the free world. So that kind of encapsulates the 5 lanes.
Absolutely. And when you take all of the pillars of that, what we're really trying to do is heal communities, make communities better.
Yep.
Right. So if you better a kid's life, help them pursue their dreams, then the family is more efficient, more happy. Their friends, their circle is improving, people that they hang out with. And then that translates to more safety and just a healthier community. Right?
It is.
Less kids get in trouble, less cops get in insane situations. Churches come together and are able to help support this. And that's what we're looking for, right? We don't want to live in these communities where we're scared and there's just so much chaos already going on. Yep. So I just love the overview, because it started in different niches, right? In prisons, and then jails, and then working with the courts. But now we've been able to cast this net over the whole community and bridge those gaps to where we're able to influence, like you said, a kid in every single part of the process.
Yep.
And I think that, I can't think of many other organizations that are doing that so systematically.
Yeah.
What I mean?
It's a whole, I think could be a game changer, because you got the families out there, and good question. I get asked, why should we support you? You're helping people that are tearing stuff up. I'm like, because they're tearing your stuff up. You know what I'm saying? 97% of the people that are locked up right now are coming home one day. Question is, what shape are they coming home in? Yeah. We got kids that are going through our neighborhoods and popping locks, trying to get into cars. Guess what they're looking for? Guns. People got guns in their cars. If you carry a gun, more power to you. Take it in the freaking house when you get out of your car. But anyway, it's that's the reason in itself is what we do is public safety.
Yeah.
Make America peaceful. How about that for a campaign? Let's make America peaceful. Don't cancel me, bro. So anyway, let's talk with if someone said, what's the biggest problem with this young generation? What in the world we're losing them? That some people might say their social media, their technology, their vaping, drug and alcohol abuse, youth gangs, just the absent father. There could be a lot of things that are check, 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 check. But we feel an area that I find is kind of untapped, and it's a lack of dreams. Yeah. We got a young generation that we're not raising up dreamers. And I don't know if we just think that that's a natural thing that people know how to do. I ask young people all the time, and it's the blessing of my life. I get to hang out with young people all the time. I love it. And the tougher the better, man. It's so much fun.
It's funny because you always, I like when you start using the lingo. I don't even have to ask you, but Mike, he'll text me and I'll be like, yo, 9:30 tomorrow, I can show up then. And he'll be like, bet. Anyways.
And I always get them to tell me new ones, pause.
Pause.
I hit Marquez out the other day, And I said, what's up, twin? And he had nothing but just laugh faces all the way across. This is like twin. This is my little brother. So anyway, they keep me kind of young, but goofy at the same time. So anyway, there's a lack of dreams. So when Dr. King got on the mall on that incredible day in August 1963, and he said, "I have a dream." The day before, October 27th. It would have been, "What's your dream?" I said, "I don't remember my dreams much when I sleep." And then he took that word and he electrified it forever. It was like, "I have a dream that's so freaking big, I'm willing to die for it." And he certainly did. And that captured my attention. 25 years old at the University of Georgia. No, I was out of them, but it must have been earlier because I wasn't still in school at 25. But anyway, that whole thing was, I have a dream. And that kind of awakened the conscience of a nation around the ability to see things that have not been. And so these kids, they don't have one. I mean, more than ever, I wouldn't say they're necessarily present, but they're focused on right here, right now. You know what I'm saying? They're not looking at 10 years from now. I told a bunch of kids 2 days ago, I'm like, it's kind of cool to vape in the bathroom at 17. At 27, we call that rehab. It's kind of cool, and I'm just going to say it, to call females hoes and thoughts. And, in 10 years, we call that divorce. You know what I'm saying? It might be cool to disrespect the teacher or the coach or the principal at 17, but in 10 years, we call that locked up. I mean, it's like they're not looking at the seeds they're planting. And so this particular program, Protect the Dream, is our flagship. And it's a program we do in the schools and in the courts and in the DJJ, where we're helping young people visualize a dream, get caught up in it. And then how do I design it? How do I nurture it? How do I manifest it, give birth to it? How do I protect it? Things that it's not rocket science, but it's just, I've found that this generation, they don't do real good at, don't drink that, don't smoke that, don't go with her, get off your phone, don't listen to that gangster rap, don't. And it awakens a rebellious spirit like, man, you can't tell me what to do, old head. And it's like, instead, it's like, what do you want to do? I mean, tell me your desires. And young people look at me like, I don't know, get paid. Just, okay, let's start with that. Now let's build a dream. The bigger the dream, the stronger the pull.
Absolutely.
So a kid's got a dream and another kid doesn't. They're at the same party on a Friday night. Things start get passed around, or maybe a girl's in trouble and people are getting out their cell phones. The kid who has a dream has something worth protecting. And that's the whole game, man, is build a dream that's so valuable that we protect it, because we naturally, inherently protect what we value. And so we're teaching kids how to dream. And then it becomes as simple. Protect the dream is, once you establish that dream, all right, instead of telling you what you can't do, I'm going to say, let's look at the threats to the dream. And then I'm going to put it on them. It's like, don't tell me your dream is ... and you're not willing to protect it. I'm going to call that BS. It's not true at all.
And I mean, it does, like having a dream, like you're saying, it just adds so much structure to your life. Because I think about, my young adult life, and there was a long period where I didn't have a dream. We had discussions about this when I was in my rock bottom. Like, you got to find something that gives your life purpose, because at the time I didn't have a dream, therefore I didn't value my life. I didn't have purpose. What's motivating me to wake up? Nothing, therefore I don't want to wake up. Right? So I think planting the seed even of teaching people to value what do you really care about? Because that, like you said, it's going to pull you, it's going to drive your whole life. So I think that's step one, right? You don't talk to successful people that are like, I was just kind of, moseying about and tripped and falled on this $1 billion empire. It's a dream. It comes from values. It comes from discipline. So.
And it freaking costs something. Anything worth value costs something. And that just makes sense. Things that's why trust fund babies turn out to be a lot of times really, really not great people, because they didn't earn anything. They didn't have to sweat, man. You didn't have to suffer and bleed a little bit. And so kids are inspired when they start hearing about, man, I could do that. And it's like, now let's just create a pathway to it. And then let's put up, guardrails to keep you from, wrecking it. And so in the schools, I want you to cast a vision. So we start with the student athlete, because they are pretty much the most influential people typically in the school. And unfortunately, they're driving many of these unhealthy behaviors that lead a kid to their worst day. Whether it's getting in a car with a bunch of knuckleheads and they don't pump the brakes and think about it, whether it's getting involved in a situation that's going to make, somebody get hurt, if it's bullying the weak. I mean, we've got this generation that's they're lacking empathy. Yeah. And if you take that to its nth degree, you're talking about a sociopath, a psychopath. If I can hurt you and not feel pain, okay, we're raising a generation that doesn't feel a lot of pain because they've learned when there's a fight in the hall, first one to get it and drop it gets all the cool points. And so it's really about compassion and empathy. And so what if we, this is what happens. We take the ones that are the influencers and the ones that they become dreamers, but then it's easy from there to go, well, now you become a dream protector. Yeah. With that talent God gave you comes responsibility. With the gifts that you have comes accountability. Yeah. And you got to care about that kid, that girl that gets exposed on social media. Yeah. Now she's thinking about hurting herself and she don't want to come to school tomorrow. Young person, you were a part of that. Yeah. You got to fix that. And you'd be amazed. Young people are stepping up because it makes them feel noble when they become a dream protector. And now the principal and the staff has an influencer that now can help drive the good behavior.
So I want to tie that into what happens when, a kid crashes through the guardrails.
Here we go. Good segue.
Into, maybe an alternative high school or a youth detention center. Right, so, just quickly walk through, because it still has to do with dreams.
Totally does, everything. So, all right, well, here's where the other lanes come into play. So if the wheelhouse for Pop is that teenager, that freshman to senior time, and especially right there in the middle, where you're finding your identity and where you belong, which everybody is seeking. And kids, it's an identity crisis like we haven't seen. So now they get caught up in something and they meet the blue lights on a Friday night. Okay, we are involved with a partnership with the police department where they're actually allowing us to create the curriculum and train the officers how to see that kid. Okay, which is, if you see them all of them are no good. They're all dangerous and they all need to be. We can't lock up our way out of this problem. We can't do it. It's not working. We're just producing better criminals that are coming back and terrorizing our communities, right? Yeah. And so we got to have a place for them when they do get to the courts, okay? First stop is they catch that first case. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden they're in the judicial system, all right? And I sit in courtrooms, I'm a part of it, and I see the dynamic in a courtroom. And think about a young person goes into the juvenile court. That's enemy ground. Absolutely. That's, right away, it's just like there's
no one wants to deal with that.
No, and they're pissed, and then everybody, it's all fear-based, right? And punitive. Punishment by itself does not get us what we want. There's got to be incentive. And so our whole thing is incentive over punishment and reward over and agreements over rules, which is another whole different thing. So we partner with the juvenile courts in a program called Rising. And it's a wraparound approach, and I'm the only civilian on the team, which gives me a really cool role with the kids, because they kind of dig me because he don't work for the man, he's fighting for us, and I kind of bring rivals together, right? And so Rising is a program, we take kids that have felonies, they're under court supervision, they're looking at jail time, and we give them incentive. And it's like if they get chosen for our program, it's a 10 to 12 month accountability court model. And it's under Judge Wayne Granis, who kind of fathered the project. And I'm lucky enough to be, from its inception, helped build the program. We're in our third year, fourth cohort. And so anyway, these kids get brought in, and it's a wraparound approach. We have the judge, a prosecutor, a defense attorney, a guardian ad litem, a family therapist, a drug and alcohol counselor. We do psych evals, probation officers, and then me. And so, and the young ones that I bring in, which is pretty cool, because we can bring in rock star kids to talk some life into these young knuckleheads. And but anyway, upon successful completion, it's a hard program. Sometimes they got to have urine tests. If they're hanging out with knuckleheads, we might put an ankle monitor on them. We care about where they go. If they're, have a bad home life, we're going to get involved and just meet them where they are. Yeah. And the incentive is at the end, if they graduated. Right now we have about a 70% graduation rate, which is
It's
pretty dang good because it's a hard program.
That's great, but it's also real that like it's not a cupcake program.
It is
you don't just
not.
get to do this and then
they come before the team every week. Thursday at 5 o'clock, they're in court, and it's real court. But it's so cool because we work with these kids. There's laughter. Sometimes they get in trouble. Sometimes there are teary moments. But anyway, imagine this, the courtroom's packed at the end, and we've got our young cohort and the graduates, and they're sitting in the jury box, and the judge is on the bench. And the court's filled with family and dignitaries and judges and all these cool people. And the crescendo after it's just, man, a lot of tears. We're so proud of these kids. The kids are crying. They came in so hard, now they're not anymore. But anyway, the prosecutor hands every one of them their criminal history. Okay, so they got this big old, some of them have a nice little thick little binder of it. And then we go 1, 2, 3, and the kids stand up in the jury box and rip it all up and throw it up in the air. And you've got this make it rain with all these charges. And the charges are not expunged and the record sealed. Yes, but the charges are dismissed, which sets our program apart. Talk about a second chance. Now the kid, a judge can put that kid's name into the system, and he's not there. Powerful. She's not there. Yeah. And so cool. And some of them are coming back now as graduates to speak to the other ones that are coming in, fresh knuckleheads. And so, okay, so we got the schools, try to prevent them from getting to the cops in the courts, but then we're going to catch them there, try to interrupt them, redirect them. But what about the ones that slip through into the DJJ? Now they got to go sit down. Yeah. Now we know that's breeding ground. It's recruiting ground for the gangs, because the gangs run the facilities and the prisons run the streets.
Absolutely.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
So how do we get to the streets? Hey, they're sitting down right there. We've got access. So we partner with the Department of Juvenile Justice in our third contract with them. They trust us. They love us. They value this program. So, and we're getting ready to start at the Metro Youth Detention Center. Mm-hmm. Some of the toughest kids in the state of Georgia, right? And but anyway, this is also a dream factory, right? But we're going to not only do the Protected Dream program, we have circles of 12, and we come in and we dig deep. And there's a way to win these kids, you know what I'm saying? But it's an art, it really is, because they're not trying to listen to many people, certainly not necessarily dudes that happen to look like myself. And so the tats don't hurt me, that's for sure.
It definitely helps.
And for those that don't know, this is a tribute. We got all kind of juvenile correctional prisons and schools and all this. This is a tribute to those that have changed my life. So anyway, but at the end of this thing, we do about 3 months, and then we have a big graduation. We celebrate everything. Free world food, gift bags. They do presentations, get awards, get certificates. And I ask these kids, I'm like, when's the last time you ever were acknowledged for something you did good? Mm-hmm. And I let them sit there and think, and they're like, and one kid said, I walked across the gym floor at 5th grade graduation. Wow. And another one was, one time I had a birthday party, when I was 8. Yeah. And several of them like, I never experienced that. Yeah. We give them an opportunity to shine. So at this event, the 41st day celebration, the ones that have earned the right are chosen to get up and do presentations. So you got this kid that's been tearing this place up. He's got tattoos on his face. He's a repeat customer, And he gets up and talks about how Dr. King changed his life. Talk about his dream for the future. And I've got these important people that come to me and say, how in the world did you get them to do that? Yeah. And it's like, I gave them an opportunity.
Yeah. And what that really is like a reward-based program, which a lot are not used to.
Big time.
Right? All that it is in, Eastman or any youth detention facility is punishment.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a big switch, reward-based. But we're also, just instilling this dream mentality and thinking further on in their life to prepare them for success when they get out.
Yeah.
Right? So how to create a peaceful environment while they're here to be productive.
Yeah.
But it's really trying to shape these kids for what the future holds when they get out and back into these communities.
That's it.
Right? So
planting seeds.
I think that's a very in-depth description.
But there's another piece.
Okay, hit it.
Where were you going to go first? Hold that thought. So where do the officers fit in? Okay, imagine being an officer in today's world. we're drastically understaffed with correctional officers and officers on the street. I mean, not a lot of people want to do this job anymore. It's not just dangerous, but you're hated on. And you fear the other. We had a podcast with one of our officers and one of our juvenile court, our DJJ kids that's now a rock star. And they came up the same way, and now they got to be enemies. And so the officer's saying, man, when I'm chasing that kid, I don't know where he's going or what he's got around that corner. And the kid's like, man, I'm running just because that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. I mean, right? It was a whole nother world. So our partnership with the police department is really, really cool. So one of the biggest things I think we need is mentoring. And that's a big word, how do we, help these kids? Well, what if we teach cops how to mentor kids that are at high risk for gang involvement? Yeah. I've never heard of that, but that's the program, POP, Cops and Kids. And so we're designing the program to train the officers how to see this young generation. It all comes down to seeing one another differently. Yeah. The officers that get chosen to do this, they've got to commit to a long-term mentoring program with this kid, not just one and done. Mm-hmm. So they're going to commit to staying in this relationship throughout their high school till they graduate or get their GED, which is big. That's awesome. And we change the way we look at a thing, the thing we look at changes. All right, so one of the creative ways that we do it is we put on these cornhole tournaments. So we'll choose an apartment complex that the blue lights visit a lot, okay? And imagine rolling up into an apartment complex where you're surrounded by people that fear you and hate you. Yeah. And so it's so simple. It's like, hey, Traymore Village Apartments, shout out, you guys are awesome. We want to come and throw a big party and feed your community. How you like that? Yes, when? And we want to do face painting for the kids and have a DJ and eat together. But here's the deal. We're inviting about 15 officers. Now imagine that, blue lights are rolling in here on a Saturday, packed up. That gets the attention of the residents. But we're also bringing one of our pop schools in. And let's say the South Cobb football team. That's the last one we did. And the Osborne soccer team. And it's like an 8th grade dance. You got all the cops over here and the kids over here, and they're not mingling. And then we start the tournament. And the cool thing about cornhole is anybody can play it. If you suck at it, you're not going to get embarrassed. Yeah. Throw a pillow? Yeah. I don't know, bag, whatever it is. But then, the cool thing about it is sports is a great peacemaker, a unifier. In the World Cup, Israel can play Iran. And for 3 magical hours, they don't want to kill each other. It's competition. When you're close enough to your rival to see them, you realize that we have much more in common than what separates us. So anyway, so the cool thing about sports or competition is you're standing next to your opponents. You got the police chief of Cobb County right here, and then you got this linebacker, who's we're worried about because he's a great football player, but he's also a little gangster. And so within 10 minutes, they're trash talking and laughing and high-fiving. And now all of a sudden, this kid goes and he's got this story to tell about he just spent the day with a bunch of police officers and had fun. Now, it's not just the kids seeing the officers different. We want the officers to see these kids are cool. They're fun. They're not, what I'm saying? So next time they roll into the apartment complex, maybe there's a seed planted where they're looking to see if they recognize any of those residents that they broke bread with. Maybe the kid sees the blue on a Friday night and he looks over just for a second to see if it's one of the cops that he might have, enjoyed that afternoon with. So it seems so simple, but it's really powerful. Yeah. So cops mentoring kids, man, that is a game changer.
But see, the soul has no identity. The ego does, right? The soul has gifts, and I stumbled into my gift and got to do it, which is a real blessing. If you can find passion and bring it into your profession, it's not work anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's purpose. You want passion in your life, find purpose in what you do. Be mindful. I don't care what it is. Find purpose in it, and it becomes a calling. Roots was an artist, and nobody saw him. Like, did you hear that? Nobody saw him. All they saw was the outside. They just saw the broken branch. They didn't see the beauty inside, which is the good stuff in every single one of us. And when I find out that you've got a story, like you've been through some stuff, the world might look less at you. In my book, it's like, no, my respect goes way up when I know you've been through some stuff. If I want to go into battle with somebody, you think I want some little cupcake youth pastor? No disrespect to youth pastors. I'm just saying, I don't want that little softy. I want somebody who's been through some wars, man. Let's go. We'll ride together. You know what I'm saying? It was a branch in the top of a 100-year-old oak tree downtown Atlanta. And I don't know if it was a storm or if it was a lightning strike or an axe, but something brought this branch, knocked it out of its life purpose. And in the amount of time it took to fall from the sky to the ground, it became trash. Because that's what we do with broken branches. I mean, we got great big old oak trees, and I don't go out in the yard and go, a treasure, another one. You know, it's like, no, you just get them all piled up and you put them aside. And yet, so this is a nasty branch laying on the road. And everybody else saw trash, but not Roots. Roots saw it for what it could be, potential. It was the branch that would become an instrument of peace and a symbol of potential that would go on a world tour. Now, I lost my brother Roots on December 27th, 2020. And he had gotten a place, and he had gotten a little job, and he had gotten a scooter. And on December 27th, 2020, he was riding home on his scooter from his job, and a drunk driver hit him and killed him. Now, what's interesting is my sobriety date is December 27th, 2005. So we're forever connected. But then I got this, and he has no idea the people he's inspired with his hustle, with his special gift. You have one too.